0, 0, 1, 9, 9, 8, 5, 7, 2, 7, 1, 6, 1, 6, 9, 2, 8, 5, 2, 4.
Welcome back to Number Station _Live UK, where today we're going to be looking at a fascinating and very still active number station, HM01. This station is unusual compared to many of the classic number stations that have fascinated listeners for decades because it mixes two worlds together, traditional spoken voice numbers and modern digital file transmissions. Over the next half an hour, we'll be taking a deep dive look into what HM01's is, where it comes from, how it works, and how it's been logged about and why it puzzles and fascinates the shortwave listening community. Let's get into this video. To understand HM01, it's important to first look back at the long history of Cuban number stations. For many years, Cuba has been one of the most active broadcasters of numbers transmissions in the world. The most famous of these earlier stations was known by hobbyists as V02 or the Spanish Lady. This station was found featured a female Spanish voice reading out groups of 5 numbers. The style was similar yet familiar. Long strings of 5-figure groups, often repeated in cycles, with an unmistaken voice of a woman speaking in clear, natural Spanish. Later came the variation such as V02A and SK01. SK01 in particular is noticeable because it had a digital mode similar to the digital bursts that we hear in HM01 today. SK01 transmitted digital data bursts using radio teletype like signals, marking a transmission in Cuban intelligence broadcasting. From pure voice-based systems to more modern machine-readable methods, these earlier stations laid the groundwork for what eventually became HM01 around the late 2012. Monitoring groups beginning noticing that some of the old Cuban schedules were disappearing and being replaced by something new. Instead of hearing just the voice of the Spanish Lady, listeners was greeted by a hybrid format, voice mixed with bursts of data digital. This marked the birth of HM01, which most hobbyists interpret as a shorthand for hybrid mode 01. HM01 emerged in late 2012 and gradually became the dominant Cuban number station, effectively replacing the old V02 and SK01 schedules. Listeners who has assumed to the steady cycle of the voice transmissions were suddenly met with a different sound entirely. The female Spanish voice was still there, but now it was mixed with the burst of digital tones similar to modern sounds that carried file transfers across the shortwave spectrum. This combination of voice and data was unlike anything else in the number station world at the time. I'm now going to play you a short snippet of HM01 so you get the idea. the nations had experimented with digital modes, HM01 was the only openly monitored station consistently transmitting both spoken voice and computer files in the same broadcast cycle. It was represented as a fusion of old and the new, keeping the familiar Spanish lady identity alive, but still modernizing the method of sending encrypted instructions. Like its predecessors, HM01 is universally attributed to Cuba. Several factors support this conclusion. Number 1, the language used in Spanish is neutral Cuban accent. Number 2, the frequencies used fall in line with the previous Cuban schedules. Number 3, signal strength and direction finding reports also consistently point back to the transmitters being located near Havana. The likely operator is Cuban DGI or the country's intelligence direct coordinate. The agency has long relied on shortwave radio as a secure one-way communication systems to reach intelligent officers abroad. Shortwave is nearly impossible to block entirely and allows agents to receive instructions anywhere in the world with just a simple portable radio. Because of this, no surprise that Cuba has continued the world investing stations like HM01 long after many nations retire their numbers operations. So what exactly makes HM01 unique? The answers lied in the hybrid format. Unlike most number stations that rely solely on voice, HM01 broadcasts both voice and digital data. The contents inside is usually binary, not human readable, suggesting that these files themselves are encrypted payloads intended for intelligence use. For the average hobbyist, decoding them only reveals that the file exists, but what information they actually contain, we don't know. This hybrid allows methods to give HM01 flexibility. The voice compounds provides a simple and robust way to deliver short instructions or identification codes, while the digital components allow the transfer of larger, more complex data securely and with error corrections. This dual system ensures that the station can adapt to both simple and advanced communication needs. I am now going to play you a short clip of what HM01 sounds like. Enjoy.
4, 8, 6, 3, 6, 1, 0, 6, 8, 4, 6, 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 7, 3, 0, 1, 6, 5, 4, 4, 0, 3, 7, 2, 1, 0.
So what is a typical structure transmission for HM01? A typical HM01 broadcast follows a fairly consistent pattern first. First off, containing is the carrier signal coming up typically with the usual short tuning period. Then the female Spanish voice reads out a set of numbers, often in 5-figure groups, just as she did on the old V02 station. After this brief voice segment, the transmission shifts into a burst of digital tones. These bursts continue for several minutes, transmitting files via PS or protocol similar to RDFT or redundant digital file transfer. Listeners often describe the sound of these verbs as similar to a modem or fax machine. To the untrained ear, it sounds like random digital noise. To those familiar with the digital modes, it's clearly a structured designed for a machine decoding. Sometimes anomalies occur on a rare occasion, hobbyists have reported unusual sounds within HM01 broadcasts, such as interruptions that represent a cuckoo calls or overlapping signals. These quirks add to the station's mystery and gives the hobbyist even more reasons to keep listening. HM01's frequencies and scheduling. HM01 has been logged on a wide range of shortwave frequencies. Common ones include 9065 kHz, 10345 kHz, 10715 kHz, 11530 kHz, 11635 kHz, 13435 kHz, and 14375 and 16180 kHz. Among others, these stations operate daily and can often be heard on multiple times throughout the day. Schedules are somewhat predictable through they change from time to time. Monitoring groups like prime.org maintain updated schedules of HM01 transmissions, making it easier for hobbyists to know where and when to listen. Reception is typically strongest in the Americas, but depending on propagation conditions, HM01 can be heard across the Atlantic and even as far as parts in Europe. Because of these shortwave propagations varies with the time of day and solar activity. HM01 is known to spread its transmissions across multiple frequencies. This ensures that agents abroad have the best chance of receiving the broadcast clearly regardless of where they are located or time of day. Let's quickly shift over to the HM01 decoding of the digital files. The digital portion of HM01's broadcast has attracted significant attention. Enthusiasts have developed methods to capture and decode these transmissions using softwares designed for RDFT style transmissions, and one of the most commonly used tools is DIGTRX, a program capable of decoding the bursts and reconstructing the transmitted files. When successfully decoded, the files will appear with an 8-digit name and extensions such as TXT or F1C. However, the contents of these files remain encrypted or otherwise unreadable to the hobbyists. They are simple binary data strings of bytes that cannot be interpreted without using the proper decryption key. The ability to capture these files is still valuable. It proves that HM01 is not just transmitting meaningless noise, but carefully structured data intended for specific recipients for the intelligence community. This means that secured and efficient delivery of instructions for the hobbyist community. It means hours of fascinating experiments and analysis. HM01's quirks. Like any other radio station, HM01 hasn't always ran smoothly. There has been several noticeable anomalies over the years that has become favourites among listeners. On some occasions, HM01's transmissions have overlapped with other Cuban broadcasts, such as Radio Havana, Cuba, creating unusual hybrid signals where numbers or digital bursts collide with music or news broadcasts. At other times, the station has repeated the same digital file block for days or even weeks, leading to speculation that either an error has occurred or that it's repeating itself, or it was intentional. There has been even more instances where the station has continued transmitting well past its scheduled end time, apparently left on by mistake. These quirks are part of what makes HM01 so fascinating. They remind us that while these stations serve a serious purpose, They are still operated by human beings and full of prey and some kind of errors and glitches in the broadcasts. This is why we call HM01 a poorly operated number station throughout these transmissions. I am now going to play you another clip of HM01 having that cuckoo sound.
648-8-8-1-5-0-6-4-4-7-8.
Shortwave listeners around the world have logged countless HM01 transmissions. Reception reports constantly show the strong signals across North America, the Caribbean, and parts of South America in Europe. The station has been often heard in the evenings depending on propagation. Hobbyists have shared hundreds of recordings online with archives of the shortwave radio audio archives and community websites preserving the sounds of HM01 for future researchers. These recordings are not only captured the voice and the digital bursts, but also provide evidence of how the station's behaviour has evolved over time. For these interested in monitoring HM01, a basic shortwave receiver is often enough. However, software-defined radios, or SDRs, has made the process much easier. SDRs allow users to record wide chunks of spectrum, captured entire broadcasts, and later decoded in digital bursts with software. This has made it possible for the hobbyist to study HM01 in greater detail than ever before. Who is HM01 actually speaking to? Well, the answer, of course, is not us. These transmissions are almost certainly intended for intelligence officers abroad. Shortwave number stations has been long used as a one-way communication for agents operating in foreign countries. The beauty of shortwave is its anonymity. A small portable receiver is enough to receive the instructions, and there is no way to prove that listeners is an agent rather than just another hobbyist. By combining voice and digital files, HM01 gives operators the ability to send both simple codes and larger encrypted data. The voice segment could be severe as a header or identification, while the digital files carry the real payload. This hybrid system may have been designed to meet the needs of agents in the field who require more complex instructions that can be conveyed with voice numbers alone. Despite all that's been logged and analysed, there is still so much about HM01 that remains unknown. We do not know about the precise location of its transmitters, though Havana is the most likely origin. We do not know the exact contents of them files, though it's safe to assume that they contain encrypted intelligence materials. We do not know the exact number of agents or recipients who rely on these broadcasts, obviously not intended for us radio amateurs. What we do know is that HM01 remains active. It's been more than a decade after it was first appeared, and its continued presence shows that shortwave number stations are not just relics of the past, but ongoing tools of intentional espionage. HM01 is the most unusual and intriguing number stations that is still active today. By merging the old traditional voice of numbers with the modern digital data technology, it demonstrates how intelligence agencies adapt their methods to changing needs for hobbyists. It offers a constant source of fascination with its strange sounds, decodable files, and occasional quirks. As long as it remains on the air, HM01 will continue to capture the imagination of shortwave listeners worldwide. And with all number stations, part of fascination lies in the fact that we are likely never going to know the full true story, we can just keep this case open because we're never going to know the full truth. Thank you so much for watching Number Station School Live UK. If you do want to explore any more of our Number Station or fascinating deep dives, please head over into our channel and have a look at all of them. Until then, keep your radios on, like, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.